If you've not seen the movie, or better yet, read the book, because it's even better, watch the movie, because that man's beautiful and he's a great actor. Your wife will love it. Your husband will not roll his eyes too hard, because it's about baseball. And if you can, actually read the book, because it's really, really good. But this movie is actually not about baseball. It's about data. It's about the culture of data. And basically what you had is like this guy who was the manager of the Oakland A's, Billy Beane, in 1997. There's the good teams, there's the bad teams, and there's 50 feet of crap, and there's the Oakland A's. And the real insight that the geeks came up with was that everybody was looking at hitting averages, but actually what you really cared was somebody getting on base. And it turns out there was this really interesting way that you could get on base that didn't involve hitting the ball, and that's called a walk. And what they did is they basically went out and they found there were all these players out there. They were like mega walkers. They didn't hit the ball very often, but they got on base a lot, and they were totally undervalued because their hitting averages were really, really bad. And so they found all these players, and they brought them up. And what ended up happening is the Oakland A's had this incredible run where on a payroll of just $41 million, they got 103 wins, whereas the Texas Rangers, run by a certain former president, had a budget that was over twice, like 2.5 times of that, and had fewer wins than losses. And if you take these numbers and you thought about them and not as like baseball teams, but as like municipal governments, and the wins were kind of like services delivered, I think we all know where we want to be. And the power that data had in driving that in baseball is what I'm trying to communicate to you is I think can have similar impacts on cities. But there's the cultural side of this is that this was all, the first insights around these types of analysis were first found in 1977 by this mathematician who was working as a security guard in the middle of nowhere and published a book that 6 people bought, and he was really excited about that. And this is what the book gets into. And it wasn't until 1985 that some of the data that baseball had got more open. It wasn't until 1997 that Billy Beane, who was the manager, finally got his hands on this analysis and did something in it. And when he did it, all the other baseball managers were like, that man is evil and is destroying baseball. So we're like in a culture battle here. This is not a technology battle, it's a culture battle. And that like those of us who were championing about open data, like fortunately it's moved a little faster, but like this is a 20-year span. When we first started, everybody thought we were crazy. And then there were a few people who were doing it, and all the other city managers were like, those city managers are crazy. Now it's kind of like a little bit more accepted, but I want you to start, we're still in the middle of this culture battle, and that you as like leaders in your city and as employees and people who are thinking about it, you are in this culture battle whether you acknowledge it or not, and you have a role to play. And I think that if you're against kind of some of the things I'm talking about, you're actually against all sorts of the good outcomes that I'm talking about as well. And you need to begin to square that round peg and figure out how you are helping drive a culture of learning and of kind of data consumption and of transparency in your organization that I think can make a big difference.